This is the Dive Into Discovery podcast, where curiosity meets insight, and every conversation uncovers a new layer of understanding.
Welcome to another deep dive. Today, we're going to be traveling back in time to explore a question that has fascinated archaeologists and historians, and frankly, anyone who's ever wondered about the very first footprints in the Americas.
Right.
For a long time, the story seemed settled.
Yeah.
The Clovis people with their iconic spear points and a dramatic entrance across the Bering Land Bridge.
Yeah.
They were considered the pioneering ancestors of indigenous Americans, but what if I told you that recent discoveries have turned that narrative on its head?
It's true. This isn't just like a minor tweak to the timeline.
Right.
This is like a potential paradigm shift.
Yeah.
Really like fundamentally changing our understanding of how the Americas were populated.
So let's start by setting the stage.
Okay.
Remind us, what exactly is the Clovis First theory, and why was it so widely accepted for so long?
Okay, so imagine this. It's around 13,000 years ago.
Okay.
The glaciers are retreating. Vast herds of mammoths roam the land. Enter the Clovis people, named after the site in New Mexico where their distinctive fluted spear points were first discovered.
Right.
These points, crafted with remarkable skill, have been found scattered across North America, suggesting a rapid spread of these early hunters.
Yeah.
The Clovis First theory posits that these were the first people to set foot in the Americas, migrating across the Bering Land Bridge from Siberia and quickly fanning out across the continent.
It's a compelling story.
Yeah.
Almost cinematic in its scope.
It is.
But like any good mystery, it seems there were clues all along hinting that something wasn't quite adding up.
Exactly. And those clues were tucked away in archaeological sites that, when carefully excavated and meticulously dated, began to challenge the established Clovis First timeline.
Okay.
These sites, dubbed Pre-Clovis, presented compelling evidence that humans were present in the Americas even earlier than 13,000 years ago.
Let's talk about some of those groundbreaking discoveries. What are some of the key pre-Clovis sites that really shook things up?
One of the most significant is Monte Verde, located in southern Chile.
In Chile.
Now, remember how the Clovis people were thought to have rapidly dispersed across North America?
Yeah, across North America.
Well, Monte Verde flips that script. This remarkably well-preserved site dates back to around 14,500 years ago.
Wow.
And paints a picture of people living in a very different environment than their Clovis counterparts further north.
So not just earlier than Clovis, but in a completely different part of the Americas.
Exactly.
What kind of evidence was found at Montevideo that makes it so convincing?
Think of it as stepping back in time to a remarkably intact encampment. We're talking about stone tools, yes, but also remnants of wooden structures.
Wow.
Hearths, plant remains, and even a possible footprint.
Really?
This wasn't just a fleeting visit.
Right.
It suggests a well-established settlement.
Wow. A footprint preserved for over 14,000 years.
It's amazing.
That's an incredible level of preservation.
It is.
But you mentioned other sites.
Yes.
What about North America? Where do things stand there in terms of challenging the Clovis timeline?
One word.
Poop.
Poop. That doesn't sound very archaeologically significant.
Hear me out, because this is where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
At the Paisley Caves in Oregon,
Right.
archaeologists unearthed something that at first glance might seem decidedly unglamorous: fossilized human feces.
Okay.
But within those ancient deposits lay a goldmine of genetic information.
Wow.
They were able to extract human DNA from these samples,
Right.
dating back roughly 14,000 years.
So not just evidence of human presence, but actual DNA that can tell us about these early Americans.
Yes, that's amazing.
It's revolutionary. And the DNA itself provided another critical insight.
Okay, what's that?
It linked directly to Native American populations.
That's a really profound connection to be able to make across thousands of years.
It is.
But I have to ask, if Monteverde and the Paisley Caves are pushing the timeline back to 14,000 years ago, how much further back are we talking about when it comes to the possibility of even earlier migrations?
Well, that brings us to a discovery that, to put it mildly, sent shockwaves through the archaeological community.
Okay.
In 2021, researchers at White Sands National Park in New Mexico stumbled upon something truly extraordinary.
Yeah.
Human footprints.
Okay. Fossilized footprints, while incredibly cool, aren't exactly unheard of in archaeology. What makes these so special?
It's the age.
Okay.
These footprints are estimated to be between 21,000 and 23,000 years old.
Wow.
We're talking about evidence of human presence in North America during the peak of the last glacial maximum.
Right.
A time when massive ice sheets covered much of the continent.
That's astonishing. It completely rewrites the timeline we thought we knew, pushing human presence in North America back by thousands of years. It makes you wonder what else is out there waiting to be discovered.
That's the question that keeps archaeologists up at night.
Yeah.
And it's a question with no easy answers.
Right.
Because if these pre-Clovis people weren't crossing the Bering Land Bridge around 13,000 years ago, as the Clovis First theory suggests, how did they get here?
Yeah.
And when?
It's like a detective story playing out across millennia. We've got our suspects, these intrepid early explorers, but the how and when of their arrival is shrouded in mystery.
Exactly. And the further we dig, the more intriguing the puzzle becomes.
Right.
The old model of a single migration event just simply doesn't hold up anymore.
Right.
We're now looking at the possibility of multiple migrations, each with its own route and timeline.
So if the Bering Land Bridge isn't the only answer anymore, what other routes are archaeologists exploring? I imagine it wasn't as simple as hopping on a plane.
You're right about that.
Yeah.
One compelling theory that's gaining traction is the coastal migration theory. Imagine this. Instead of battling their way through harsh, icy landscapes, these early seafarers hug the coastline, navigating their way south in boats.
Boats, so they were skilled navigators, too. That adds a whole other layer of complexity to their story. What kind of evidence supports this coastal route?
Well, picture the Pacific coastline during the last glacial maximum. Lower sea levels. Perhaps even a kelp highway, teeming with marine life. It would offer a rich and relatively stable source of food and resources for people making their way south.
Right.
Of course, finding physical evidence of these ancient maritime voyages is incredibly challenging.
I can imagine. Wooden boats, especially those dating back thousands of years, wouldn't exactly hold up well in the archaeological record.
Precisely. Add to that rising sea levels, which have submerged vast stretches of coastline since then.
Right.
So you can see why finding these underwater sites is like searching for a needle in a haystack.
Yeah.
But archaeologists are hot on the trail using sonar technology, underwater robots, and even exploring submerged caves in search of clues.
That's fascinating. But what about those footprints we talked about earlier?
Yeah.
The ones at White Sands. Those were found far inland.
Right.
How does the coastal migration theory explain those?
That's where the plot thickens.
Okay.
For those footprints to have been made by people traveling south from Alaska, they would have needed a way through or around the massive ice sheets that covered much of Canada during the last glacial maximum.
Right.
This is where the debate about the ice-free corridor comes in.
So it's like trying to navigate through a maze of ice.
It's a good way to put it.
Were these early explorers intrepid enough to brave such a challenging route?
Perhaps. There was a period when a corridor opened up between the ice sheets.
Okay.
But the million-dollar question is, when did this happen?
Right.
And was it early enough for people to have made those footprints at White Sands?
So the timing is crucial here.
Yeah.
If the corridor opened up too late, it would mean those footprints belonged to a group that arrived via a different route altogether.
Possibly.
Potentially even before the Bering Land Bridge became passable.
Exactly. And that's what makes this field so exciting.
Yeah.
Each new discovery has the potential to overturn our assumptions and force us to reevaluate what we thought we knew about the peopling of the Americas.
It's like every stone tool, every hearth, every footprint is a piece of a giant jigsaw puzzle, and we're only just beginning to put the pieces together.
That's a great analogy. And speaking of piecing together a puzzle, there's another theory we haven't even touched on yet.
Okay.
The Solutrean hypothesis.
Ah, yes, the European connection. I remember reading about that.
Yeah.
Isn't that the one that suggests people might have crossed the Atlantic Ocean from Europe to North America?
That's the one. It's a controversial theory, to say the least.
Okay.
And not widely accepted by most archaeologists.
Right.
But it's definitely captured the public's imagination.
I can see why. A transatlantic voyage during the last ice age. That's the stuff of adventure novels. But what's the evidence like? What makes researchers think there might be a connection between ancient Europeans and the first Americans?
The theory rests on similarities between certain types of stone tools found in Europe and those discovered at some early sites in North America.
Okay.
Specifically, it points to similarities between the Solutrean culture, which existed in present-day France and Spain around 20,000 years ago, and some of the earliest archaeological sites on the east coast of North America.
So similar tools, different continents. That is quite a leap. What do most archaeologists say about this theory?
While it's certainly an intriguing idea, most archaeologists remain unconvinced. The main challenge is the lack of a clear archaeological trail linking the two continents.
Right.
We're talking about a vast expanse of ocean with no known sites bridging the gap.
Right.
And the dating, while suggestive, isn't conclusive.
So while it might make for a good movie plot, the Solutrean hypothesis, at least for now, remains a fringe theory.
Yeah.
But regardless of how they arrived, whether by boat, across an ice-free corridor, or even potentially from Europe, the existence of pre-Clovis sites has fundamentally changed our understanding of early America.
Absolutely. It's no longer a simple story of one group, the Clovis people, arriving and rapidly populating the continent.
Right.
We're now faced with a much more complex and nuanced picture.
Yeah.
One that suggests a deep history of human presence in the Americas, stretching back thousands of years earlier than we previously thought possible.
It's like realizing there were entire chapters of human history in the Americas that we never even knew existed. It really changes the way we think about these early migrations.
It certainly does. And it challenges us to reconsider some of our assumptions about these early Americans. For instance, we've often pictured the first Americans as solely focused on hunting big game.
Right, like mammoths.
Especially mammoths and mastodons. But the pre-Clovis evidence paints a more nuanced picture.
So not just fearless mammoth hunters. What else does the evidence tell us about their lifestyles and adaptations?
Think about it if they were navigating coastlines,
as
the coastal migration theory suggests. They must have had significant maritime skills. They were probably adept at fishing, exploiting coastal resources, and building boats capable of navigating open waters.
That makes sense. It's a far cry from the image of people solely focused on chasing herds across vast plains. What about those who ventured inland? How did the lifestyles differ?
Even inland, the evidence suggests a high degree of adaptability. Take the Monte Verde site, for example. It wasn't just a campsite. It showed signs of a well-established settlement with evidence of plant use, tool making, and even a possible dwelling structure.
So they were building structures, utilizing plants, and adapting to a variety of environments. It sounds like we're talking about resourceful and resilient people.
Absolutely. The pre-Clovis discoveries challenge us to see these early inhabitants of the Americas, not just as hunters, but as skilled foragers, tool makers, and builders. They were masters of their environment, capable of thriving in a range of ecological niches.
It's fascinating to think about the knowledge and skills they must have possessed to survive and adapt in such diverse environments. It makes you wonder what other secrets are still buried out there waiting to be discovered.
That's the beauty of archaeology. It's an ongoing process of discovery, and each new find has the potential to reshape our understanding of the past. The story of the first Americans is far from over. In fact, it feels like we're just beginning to scratch the surface.
It's almost like the ground beneath our feet is whispering stories from millennia ago, urging us to listen and learn.
That's a beautiful way to put it. And as we continue to explore, excavate, and analyze, who knows what incredible discoveries await? Maybe one day we'll uncover evidence that rewrites the story yet again.
This deep dive has completely changed the way I think about the first Americans. It's a reminder that history is rarely straightforward. And there's always more to learn.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
What did you think of this week's episode? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to join us next time as we dive even deeper. And as always, stay curious, because you never know what discoveries are just around the corner.